Today's gospel is at least partially about identity, the identity of Christ. Who do you say that I am? You are thinking not as God does, but as human beings do. As luck would have it, I read something interesting and significant and relevant to this topic just last week. In the story, a physicist was talking to a sociologist, and he said to him, "I'm sorry, but I can no longer take your field of sociology seriously because I no longer believe that it's possible to study a person. All you can really do is get to know them, and that's a very different thing." I like that quote. Probably not fair to use it to disprove all of sociology, but that's not why it's being brought up here. It's significant today because I do think that that quote is true in that you cannot literally study a human being. You can study part of a human being. So imagine, if you will, that someone knows everything there is to know about your personal medical history. And they know that you come to church. They know how often you look at your phone during Mass. They have perfect and complete lists of the books you've read, the food that you eat, and the things you spend your money on. They have a tracker in your phone, and they have a perfect, complete printout of your entire internet history. They've got all of that. They can study all of that. Does that person know you? Does that person know who you really are? I realize that I can only truly speak for myself, but that is an easy question. The answer is no. Absolutely not. None of those facts and details could possibly add up to the summation of a human life. Or if you prefer, none of those details and facts can possibly add up to a human soul. And part of what makes this so interesting is that you can truly know someone. At least to a degree, you can know someone down to their very soul. I do believe that's possible. However, in order for that to happen, you need to share their life. You need to listen to them, spend time with them, and experience life with them. So who knows you better than anybody else? Hey, the predictable answers are the most sensible guesses. Your mom, your dad, your spouse of many years of marriage, your lifelong best friend, maybe your children. None of those people necessarily know your full medical history or your spending habits. Hopefully they know what your favorite food or your favorite movie is, but maybe not. But regardless, these are the people who know you the best. And you only get that information one way. They have shared their life with you, and vice versa. I've said this before, if something is true between us as people, it's probably also true between us and God. So you absolutely can study Christ. You should study Christ. Learn about his life and his mission. Buy an Introduction to Christianity textbook. I'm sure you can find one used for $1.50. If you're real slick, you can find one that's already highlighted for you. And if you do that, you will learn and have a greater understanding of how our faith has been shaped by thousands of years of history. The good things that have happened, the bad things that have happened, the completely unpredictable things that just happen in history from time to time, all of that shapes how we see and understand Christ. But no matter how much or how little studying you do about Christ, you still need to know him. You need to know Christ. And that is not likely to happen in a classroom. It takes more than a book. It takes more than a library of books. Those things are helpful, but they are not the source. St. Francis of Assisi, he knew Christ. And he was not a very studious person. He knew Christ through poverty and love of neighbor. St. Maximilian Kolbe did not give his life for another person because he did the math and logically concluded that was the most sensible thing to do. No, he gave his life for another because he knew that that's what he was being called to do through Christ. Getting back into Scripture a little bit, Peter would eventually know Christ that well. In this gospel reading, not so much. He's getting there, but he's got a ways to go. He's only understanding Christ on a superficial level. He knows Christ the way we know coworkers. He would only really understand after the crucifixion that Jesus is even more than meets the eye. So today, we should avoid the same pitfall that Peter fell into. Because Peter was so sure that he knew who Jesus was that he actually started telling Jesus who he was supposed to be. You don't need to be the Son of God to know that doesn't work. That's not how that works at all. And that's why Jesus shot back at him right away with no hesitation, "Get behind me, Satan," which basically means, Peter, you couldn't be more wrong. And for Peter, he would need to witness Jesus' darkest, most terrifying moment in life before he'd understand that Jesus' true identity was not something for him to declare or determine. It's the same dynamic with us today. It is so easy to study Jesus and then just declare something about him one way or another. Okay, I have lost track of how many ridiculous, contradictory theories I have heard about Jesus in my day. Coming up with a half-baked theory about Jesus and then playing it off as something authoritative, that is so woefully common and trite, it's not even funny. It is a very different thing to know Jesus as the person that he is. And what that really boils down to is listening to him. Because I assure you that he is speaking to each and every one of you. Absolutely. In one way or another, at least. He will never leave your side, but he will also never shy away from the truth. That's actually why he's a little harsh on Peter today. It's because Peter doubtlessly had immense love for Jesus, no doubt in that way. But Peter was not quite ready to face the truth. And for that, Jesus gave him and the other disciples a little bit of corrective advice on his identity and the truth. So I will end today with a same piece of well-intentioned corrective advice regarding truth and identity. Because there is a phrase out there that the church has referred to and quoted for centuries right up until today. I'm sure many of you have seen the yard signs, bumper stickers, and/or flags that say, "Love is kind." Those are very popular right now. I'm not exactly sure why, but those are nice signs. And there's nothing wrong with that because love is kind, and we are certainly called to be kind to one another. My problem with those signs is they're only half complete. Here's the other half. This is what the church has been saying for centuries. Love is kind. We are called to be kind to one another. But in order for something to be kind, it must first be true. If something is not true, it cannot authentically be kind. And there is no greater truth than Jesus Christ, true God and true man.